Welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'difrei Torah.
Okay.
And we are, of course, in Parshat Pinchas, and we are ending up Parshat Pinchas with the festival of Sukkot and Parshat Pinchas, the laws towards the end of Parshat Pinchas detail the specific offerings that were brought on festivals. And these, of course, are mandatory offerings. It starts off, just to review, starts with the daily Tamid offering, a lamb in the morning, a lamb in the evening, and then it goes on to Shabbat, the additional lambs that were brought on Shabbat. It then discusses Rosh Chodesh, and then it goes through the Jewish calendar festival year, starting with Pesach and going through that and ending up with Sukkot. So you can see that it's clearly organized by frequency. And we're into the second, finishing up the second day of Sukkot. And there's only one slight difference with each of the days, and that has to do with the bulls. We start off with 14 bulls, and then the next day we do 13, the next day we do 12, etc., as you will see. And then there's slight distinctions made when it talks about the libations. And there's an allusion based on those changes in wording that Rashi told us yesterday allude to the water libation festival that took place on Sukkot Simchat Beit HaShoeva. Anyway, just finishing up. So we have bulls, we have rams, we have lambs as olot, as whole offerings, and every time we have usir izim echad chatat, and a goat, right, of the goats, one as a sin offering, milvad olata tamid, apart from, again, the daily perpetual offering. It's brought every day, olata tamid, the whole offering, the perpetual daily whole offering, uminchata veniskehem, and its meal offering and their libations. Libations, of course, liquid offerings of oil and wine. The actual amounts, etc., are mentioned also elsewhere. So that's the second day. Uvayom hashlishi, and on the third day. So by the way, this niskehem is a slight difference, because let me take you here and then look here. Veniska. So generally it says Veniska, and it talks about Veniskehem. There's a place you'll see where it talks about, let's see if I can find it on the sixth day. Well, it's on the next page, so that's right. But you see Veniska right there, Veniska right here. So these little changes and the difference of letters, as Rashi points out, is mem, yud, mem, right? So. Uvayom hashlishi, and on the third day, parim ashte asar. So we're talking about bulls, 11, right? Elim shnaim. So we start off, okay, so sorry. We have to start off with 13 on the first day, 12 on the second day, third day, 11, Elim shnaim. Again, the two rams every day, two rams brought. Kvasim b'nei shana arba'a asar tamim. There's the 14. We're talking about 14 perfect lambs, okay, of a yearling lambs, b'nei shana. Uminchatam v'niskehem, and their meal offerings and their libations, la parim, la elim, v'la kvasim, for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, b'misparam kemishpat, according to their number, according to the law regarding that. Usir chatat echad milvat. So just a little bit of interesting change of order here, right? Usir chatat echad, and a goat as a sin offering one, milvad olat tamid, along with the olah, the whole offering of the perpetual offering daily, uminchata, and its meal offering, veniska, and its excuse me, and its libation. Going on, just making sure we don't have any Rashis on this, partially because of the repetition. So, going on. Uvayom Harivi'i, on the fourth day, Parim Asara, 10 bulls, Ailim Shnaim, again, rams 2, Kvasim B'nei Shana Arba Asar Tamimim, yearling lambs 14, perfect. Minchatam v'niskehem, their meal offerings and their libations, la parim, la elim, v'lakvasim, for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, b'misparam kemishpat, according to their number and according to the law, what is dictated for them, because there was, I think it was 3/10, if I'm not mistaken, of an ephah for the bull, and it was 2/10 for a ram and 1/10 for a lamb for each lamb. Usirizim echad chatat, and one goat as a sin offering, milvad olata tamid, apart from the tamid offering, minchata veniska, its meal offering and its libation. Excuse me. Uvayom hachamishi, and on the fifth day, parim tisha, 9 bulls, elim shnaim, 2 rams, kvasim b'nei shana arba asar tamimim. So again, lambs, yearling lambs, 14, in perfect condition. It's making just double checking about the Rashis. Forgive me. Okay. Uminchatam v'niskehem leparim la'elim v'lakvasim, and their meal offerings and their libations for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, b'misparam kamishpat, according to their number and according to the law, what's set down. Usir chatat echad, again, you can see this. There's sometimes a little bit of change in the order here, but it says, and a sin offering, a goat of sin offering, 1, milvad olat tamid, apart from the tamid offering, minchata v'niska, its meal offering and its libation. Uvayom shishi, and on the 6th day, parim shmona. So we go down now to 8 bulls, elim shnayim, 2 rams, kvasim b'nei shana arba asar tamimim. Again, so this is easy to learn, right? Because of the repetition, right? So lambs, yearling lambs, 14, perfect condition. Umir chatam v'niskehem. Do you see there's the niskehem, this additional mem, and their meal offerings and their libations, la parim, la elim, v'lakvasim, for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, b'misparam kemishpat, according to the number and according to what has the law concerning them, the rules. Usir chatat echad, and a goat of sin offering, 1, milvad olat tamid, apart from the, or in addition to the olah, the perpetual offering, minchata v'nis unschacheha. So there's the yud there, right? Its meal offering and its libation, their libations. Uvayom hashvi'i, and on the 7th day, parim shiva, right? So again, now we're down to 7 bulls, elim shnaim, 2 rams, kvasim b'nei shana arba asar tamimim, and we're talking about yearling, 14 yearling lambs in perfect condition, uminchatam v'niskehem, and their meal offerings and libations, la parim, la elim, v'la kvasim, for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, b'misparam kemishpatam, according to their number, etc., according to the law. Usir chatat echad, and one goat of sin offering, milvad olat tamid, apart from, or in addition to the olah of the perpetual daily or olah, minchata v'niska, its meal offering and its libation. So that's the 7 days of Sukkot. Finally, by Yom Hashmini, on the 8th day, Atzeret. So Atzeret, Rashi's gonna explain this term Atzeret. La Atzor means to stop, right? So it's some festival that marks a conclusion. Tielachem, it shall be for you. Kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu, you shall not do any kind of work. Again, it's a Yom Tov, right? And here we go. Atzeret tielachem, you shall have an atzeret, right? A stopping. Atzurim be'asiyat malacha, meaning that you have to cease, you have to stop doing any malacha. Malacha means, the best translation I can give you, it does mean work or service, I suppose, but it means basically the kind of work prohibited on Shabbat. Although on Yom Tov, as I said, there's a little bit of an exception, basically for the purpose of cooking. You are allowed to cook on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbat, but nevertheless, we're talking about that kind of cease of that kind of labor. So that's in the Sifrei. Sifrei is this halachic midrash on the book of Numbers and Deuteronomy. Davarache, another interpretation. Atzeret, right? Itzru milatzet. When it says atzeret, it means stop from departing. And there's this beautiful, beautiful midrash on the whole point of Sh'mini Atzeret. Melamed sheta'un lina. So this teaches you that they are required to spend the night. In other words, they come to the temple, and on the last day of Sukkot, they spend the night in preparation for Sh'mini Atzeret. Umidrashu ba'agada, and its interpretation in the legendary material in the Agadah, as opposed to halacha. That's the way we generally understand these words. There's halacha, meaning the legal elements of Judaism, and there's Agadah, which basically comprises of interpretations, either legendary or literary analysis or that kind of thing, okay, as opposed to formal legislation. And this is in the Tractate Sukkah, page 55. There's a tractate in the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud. Here we go. Lefi shekol yemot haregel, on account of the fact that all the days of this pilgrim festival, hikrivu neged shiv'im umot, they offered up to correspond to the 70 nations. Those are the bulls, so that if you start off with 13 on the first day and you wind up with 7 on the 7th day, you have a total of 70. Ukesheba'in lalechet, and when they were ready to depart, Amar lahem hamakom, the basically this is a reference. Makom, of course, is a reference to God. God said to them, Bavakasha mikem, if you please, asuli su'udak tana, just make a small meal for me, kedei ehene mikem, so that I can enjoy your company. It reminds me of the breakfast very often after a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, when there's large catering, etc. There's a meal Sunday morning before people leave to go back home, which is really for intimate family. And this is very similar. Just there's this beautiful thought of the fact here in this case that God loves our company, loves being with us. And he's not in a hurry for us to go back to our regular lives. So we could also learn from this that, and I know from other sources, that when the Jewish people observe the holidays, it has a special level of merit that regular Shabbatot, etc., as important as they are, and they are extremely important, but there is a level of blessing that inheres when the Jewish people actually observe the festivals. And of course, we all know that so often that is one of the things that gets a far less of an attendance at the synagogue. But it is a time, as I said, the festivals themselves, to my mind, are celebrated because they represent times when the divine was present and manifest in this world in an unusually intense kind of way. And this is a way of celebrating it. And in a sense, in terms of a cycle, there's a sense of the divine presence on these particular days, so that if we don't go to our regular labors, if we're able to, and rather devote them to the celebration of the Chag, of the festival, there is a very high spiritual value to that. So, going on. Here we are. V'hikravtem ula, and you shall offer up a olah offering, as a whole offering, and look at this. Ishe, by fire, reach nichoach lashem, as a pleasing savor to the Lord. Par echad, right? Just simply one bull, we've had 13, 12, 11, etc. Here we have just one bull. Ayil Echad, we had 2 rams. Here, just 1 ram. Kvasim b'nei shana shivat mimim. We had 14 lambs. On this day, 7. Right, 7 in perfect condition. Let's take a look at the Rashi here. Let's find it. Okay, I think it may be here. Let's see. Here we are. Yes. Par echad, ayil echad, right? 1 bull, 1 ram. Ayil, okay, or elu. Obviously there could be different manuscripts here, right? Ayil means, of course, a ram. Elu seems like a more accurate version. These are Keneged Yisrael. This is to symbolize the Jewish people, right? Hitakvu li me'at od. Just delay yourselves a little bit more. Velashon hibahu. This statement is this idea of these small number of animals it's a term of endearment. It's by way of endearment. Ze okay. Velashon hibahu ze kabanim. So he compares this to banim haniftarim me'avihem, when sons depart from their father. Vahu omer lahem, and the father says to them, Kashe alai pridachem. I have a hard time when you depart. I long for you. I miss you. Ikfu od yom echad. Just delay your departure by 1 day. Mashal melech. This can be compared also to a king. She'asa seuda, who made a great feast. V'chula, etc., Kedeita b'Masechet Sukkah, and Rashi just points out to the tractate Sukkah where this particular metaphor is explained, right, to be compared. So again, I think we're talking about, the public feast and the king's intimates is what I'm going to think, and you can find it on page 55 of tractate Sukkah. Uva Midrash Rabbi Tanchuma, there's also a wonderful midrash called the Tanchuma, which is on the Torah. Okay, Limda, this is what they say. Limda Torah derech eretz. That the Torah is trying to teach us human decency. Shemi sheyesh lo achsanai, right? That somebody who has guests, if somebody has guests, Yom Rishon machilo petumot. On the first day, the meal will be fattened fowl. Lamachar, the next day, if he's staying with him for a long time, machilo dagim. So they obviously feel that fish dagim is a good company fare, right? Lamachar, and the next day, machilo basar behema, and he considers feeding him meat from cattle, red meat. Lamachar machilo kidniot. A day following that, he feeds him legumes. Lamachar machilo yerek, and in the following day, he will feed him vegetables. Pochet v'holech kepri hachag. That he should lessen the level of the meal, just like the bulls were lessened on the Chag, on Sukkot. Going on, minchatam v'niskehem lapar la'ayil lakazim, but they all have their meal offering and their libations according to the bull, the ram, and the lambs, b'misparam k'mishpat, according to their numbers and according to the set down law. Let's see if there's no Rashi on that. Osir chatad echad, and 1 goat of a sin offering, milvad olata tamid, along with the tamid offering, uminchata v'niska, and its meal offering and its libation. Ele ta'asu l'Hashem b'moadechem, these you shall do on your set times. Levad mididrechem, apart from your vows, right? V'nidvotechem, and your gifts, offerings, la'olotechem, for your whole offerings, uleminchotechem, and for your meal offerings, v'niskechem, and for your libations, uleshalmechem, and for your peace offerings. And I pointed out that one can divide sacrifices into two major categories. One is the public offerings that were offered on behalf of the entire community, and personal offerings that one could bring for personal situations. Let's see the Rashi on this. Okay. Okay. Ele tasu l'Hashem b'modechem. These you shall perform for the Lord at your set times, at your festivals. Davar hakatsuv l'chova. This is something that is considered an obligation. These particular offerings are obligatory. Levad mididrechem, apart from your vows, im batem lidor korbanot paregel. If you have come to vow certain offerings on the festivals, mitzvahi be'etchem, right? It is a commandment in your hands. It's under your control. Or nidre, or nidarim, or gifts. All right, or sorry, it's another kind of vow, neder. The difference is that where you take on a general vow and say, I vow to bring an animal of some kind, or whatever it is that you're vowing to bring. And the other is, that would be, I think, a neder. And the dava has to do with saying, I vow to bring this object, this animal, etc. That's the distinction. Or nidavot, and nidava would be a gift. Shinidartim, which you have sworn to bring, kol hashana, all throughout, or perhaps it means any time of the year. Okay, if you have a different interpretation, please let me know. Okay, takrivum baregel, you should nevertheless offer them up at the regel, at the pilgrimage festival, one of them, Pesach, Shavuot, or Sukkot. Those are the three pilgrimage festivals. Shema yikshe lo lachazor. In other words, I think the point being made here is despite the fact that all these public offerings are being brought, they're community offerings. If you have personal offerings that you have vowed to bring and you haven't brought them yet, bring them at the time of the Pilgrim Festival. In case it becomes difficult, you have difficulty returning V'la'alot Yerushalayim and going up to Jerusalem. Ulahakriv nidarav, right, and in order to offer up his vows. V'nimtza over beval tacher, and in that case you will have transgressed the law of not delaying. Do not delay. Last verse. Vayomer Moshe el Bnei Israel. It's interesting. Notice it's from a different chapter. The chapters were actually devised by Christian scholars. Okay, but we did adapt them. So, but we'll see that this is interesting, right? Vayomer Moshe el Bnei Israel, and Moses said to the children of Israel, Kachol asher tzivah Hashem et Moshe, all that the Lord had commanded Moses. And Rashi's going to explain why, despite the fact that really this belongs to the next Sedra, which has to do with the fulfillment of vows. Okay, so notice the connection. Nevertheless, this is added here as part of what we just said, and Rashi's going to explain that. Vayomer Moshe el Bnei Israel, and Moses said to the children of Israel, Lahafsik ha'inyan, right? So he says this is to divide up the subject, Divrei Rabbi Yishmael, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. Why? Lefisha Adkan, because up to this point, Dvarav Shel Makom. Remember, those laws were given by the divine, right? Parshat Nidarim, and the Parsha, the chapter that deals with vows, Mitchelet B'diburo Shel Moshe. But that begins with Moses telling them, Utzrach lahafsik tchila. So it was necessary to cause a division, right? To begin with, velomar, and to say, shechazar Moshe, that despite the fact that all these laws were given in God's name in our Parsha, Moses went back for Amar Parsha Zol Israel. And the fact is that Moses also taught this particular chapter, dealing with all these public offerings to the Jewish people, she'im lo chen, because if this verse weren't here, yesh b'mashma, there might be an implication, shelo amar lahem zo, that he didn't actually tell them about this. Ela b'parshat nedarim hitchil dvarav, but the fact that in fact his words actually started with the next chapter that deal with vows. And with this, we conclude Parshat Pinchas, and I'm going to stop the share here and invite any comments, any thoughts that you might have. Morris, you look like you have a thought, perhaps.
No, I'm getting ready to leave.
Okay.
Let's walk.
All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and do that, unless someone wants to say something for the record. Mead?
No, no comment.
Okay. I'm going to take that as a compliment. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bob, take care. I'm going, okay. And Harlan,
Right.
just all the best.